Journalist Richard Carlson was sitting in his office when the phone rang. On the other end was a lieutenant from the Los Angeles Police Department. He told Carlson that the fingerprints of the woman he was investigating had come back with a match, but not the one they were expecting. The prints belonged to a convicted con man, but there was one more fact which stunned Carlson. According to official records, the man was already dead, killed by the mob in a shootout. So how did he come back from the dead? And more importantly, how can his prints match a woman's fingerprint? October 1973. America was facing one of the biggest oil crises in its history. After the United States backed Israel during the Yom Kippur War, Arab nations cut off oil supplies almost overnight. Gas prices quadrupled within months. Fuel shortages spread across the country. Cars lined up for hours at gas stations, many of which ran dry by noon. Inflation surged past 10%, and the economy began to struggle. Consumers wanted a solution: cheaper gas or more economical cars, and a company delivered what people were looking for.
Automotive design, a three-wheel chassis with a high-impact plastic-resistant rosin body, top speed of 85 miles per hour. For comfort and economy, it's the Dale by 20th Century Motor Car Corporation.
The Dale claimed that it would get 70 miles to the gallon and cost less than $2,000. Made of a special aerospace plastic, its creator claimed it could withstand an impact against a brick wall at 50 miles an hour and was impossible to tip over. It seemed like the perfect answer to the gas crisis. The company behind the idea was the 20th Century Motor Car Corporation, led by a woman named Elizabeth Carmichael.
We've taken a total concept, integrated it, and built a whole new means of transportation.
Elizabeth was an automotive engineer and a great salesperson. She positioned the Dale as the future of transportation. In a male-dominated auto industry, a woman leading a bold new car company was highly unusual.
I have no fears about being a woman in a man's world, because I can outsmart him, out-talk him, and out-cuss him.
Elizabeth quickly became a national sensation. She pushed the Dale at every opportunity, and with aggressive advertising campaigns and appearances on shows like The Price is Right, the car quickly became what Americans desperately wanted. But there was a problem. The Dale was still just a concept. There wasn't even a working prototype. But as the hype grew, people began putting down deposits for the Dale. Money started pouring in. The company was making thousands of dollars a day. To her supporters, she wasn't just building a car. She was about to revolutionize the auto industry. Elizabeth was enjoying the spotlight and the growing attention. She promised the Dale would be on the road within months. But as she rode this wave of hype and confidence, one journalist began to question the story. He wanted to know who Elizabeth Carmichael really was, and that curiosity would soon expose everything. Richard Carlson was a reporter at KABC-TV in Los Angeles when he heard about the Dale. Intrigued by the car's supposed engineering breakthrough, he decided to investigate. Carlson arranged a visit to meet Elizabeth Carmichael and see the operation firsthand. At first glance, everything looked convincing. Elizabeth confidently explained how the parts were being custom built inside their own workshop. Carlson listened closely, seemingly impressed, but he had an automotive expert quietly posing as a lighting technician. After the visit, the expert delivered a very different assessment. The components they had seen weren't custom made at all.
The company said the engine was in fact made by FMC and the transmission was from a Toyota, both of which charges were denied by Mrs. Carmichael, who did refuse to say who'd made them on the grounds that the secret might be stolen by Detroit automobile manufacturers.
This pushed Carlson to dig deeper, and what he uncovered was bizarre. Elizabeth was selling options on the Dale for around $1,900, using that money to fund the production and pay salaries. This was completely illegal under the U.S. securities law. When Carlson and his team broke the story, the state of California stepped in and issued an order to stop the sale of the options. The backlash was immediate. Elizabeth accused Carlson of working with big auto corporations to crush her invention. To many people, he was no longer a journalist exposing the truth. He was the villain trying to destroy the future. But none of this stopped Carlson. he kept pushing. He called the University of Ohio to confirm Elizabeth's engineering degree. The university said they had no record of her. That answer unsettled Carlson. Something was clearly wrong. So, he decided to take a risk. Carlson quietly paid one of Elizabeth's employees to slip him a glass tumbler she had used. The glass carried her fingerprints. So, he took the tumbler straight to the Los Angeles Police Department and asked them to run the prints. But when the results came back, it flipped the story on its head. Things were not looking the way they were. Carlson's reporting hit the business hard. As news of the illegal options trading spread, investor confidence collapsed. Money dried up quickly, and Elizabeth struggled to keep the company alive. As paychecks began to fail, employees complained, and many stopped working altogether. But Elizabeth was not ready to give up. She decided to move the company's headquarters to Texas, where regulations were far more lenient. But this only worsened her situation. Once in Texas, the district attorney visited the facility to check on the car, and what he saw was not impressive. The company lacked equipment or any real facilities to make a car. There was no master plan. There was no schedule to complete anything. The 20th Century Motor Car Corporation was barely building anything. As a result, Elizabeth was charged with grand theft for the sale and promotion of the Dale.
The district attorney of Dallas has issued criminal complaints against 10 officers of the 20th Century Motor Car Company of Encino, manufacturers of the controversial Dale automobile.
As investigators began digging into her past, the story took a dark turn. There was no evidence that Elizabeth Carmichael existed before March 1973. Police quickly secured an arrest warrant and went to her home to take her in. But she was gone. The house was empty, as if she had vanished into thin air. At the same time, the fingerprints Carlson left with the LAPD finally came back with a match. The prints on the glass did not belong to Elizabeth Carmichael. Instead, they belonged to a wanted fugitive named Jerry Dean Michael. In that moment, everything snapped into place. The woman at the center of the Dale was not just hiding. She was someone else entirely.
Now, state officials tell us that Mrs. Carmichael's fingerprints match those of a notorious con man. Mrs. Elizabeth Carmichael is actually Mr. Jerry Dean Michael. Geraldine Elizabeth Carmichael, in reality, is a 47-year-old guy by the name of Jerry Dean Michael.
Jerry Dean Michael was born into a middle-class family in Jasonville, Indiana. From a young age, he constantly clashed with law enforcement. In his late 20s, Jerry claimed to own a newspaper. In reality, he was printing counterfeit money. On August 4th, 1961, Secret Service agents caught up with him. After securing bail, Jerry vanished, fleeing with his wife and their children. The FBI launched a nationwide hunt as the family moved constantly, living a life on the run. Then, in 1965, everything seemed to end. Jerry's car was found abandoned on the side of the road, splattered with blood and riddled with bullet holes. His body was never recovered. Authorities concluded that he had been murdered by the mob, but that conclusion was wrong. The scene had been staged. Jerry wasn't dead. He had faked his death to escape the FBI, setting the stage for an entirely new identity. Jerry resurfaced years later as a woman, creating an entirely new identity. But while the identity and the death had been staged, something deeper was real. Jerry had always felt like a woman inside and chose to transition. His wife, Vivian, supported him, helping with makeup, clothing, and appearance. Over time, Jerry Dean Michael fully became Elizabeth Carmichael. Even with a new identity, the old patterns never disappeared. Elizabeth was still running. For months, authorities searched for her with no success. But in April 1975, the police finally received a tip and arrested her from Miami, Florida. The news spread like wildfire. Every major outlet covered the story of the transgender con artist. But the focus was placed on her gender and transition rather than on the crimes themselves. The trial became a national spectacle. Elizabeth claimed the charges were part of a conspiracy to destroy her for challenging powerful giants in the automotive industry. But after months of testimony and cross-examination, the jury was not convinced. In the end, Elizabeth Carmichael was found guilty. On December 3, 1980, she was scheduled to appear in court for her final sentencing. Just like usual, she never showed up. Once again, Elizabeth had disappeared without a trace.
In a moment, the story of Liz Carmichael, visionary, automotive genius, and wanted fugitive.
On April 5, 1989, the popular American show Unsolved Mysteries aired an episode featuring Elizabeth Carmichael and the Dale scam. Within minutes of the broadcast, the production team received a tip. Elizabeth was alive and living in Texas, working as a flower vendor. By then, she had been missing for 8 years since her last court appearance. This time, authorities moved quickly. Elizabeth was finally arrested and brought back to face sentencing. She received an 18-month prison sentence. Despite being legally recognized as a trans woman, Elizabeth was sent to a men's prison. After completing her sentence, she resumed her life running a flower business. In 2004, Elizabeth Carmichael died of cancer. Her story remains deeply controversial. Some view her as a skilled con artist who scammed investors out of more than $3 million with a fake car, while others see her as a victim. Many argue that she was prosecuted because of her gender identity and the prejudice surrounding trans people at the time.
Elizabeth Carmichael was an original thinker. She was way ahead of her time.
In reality, Elizabeth's idea sounded groundbreaking, but it was built on promises rather than science. She failed to secure funding from legitimate investors, and every test run ended in failure. While many see her as a victim of the prejudice she faced at the time, there were also real people who believed in her promises and lost their money because of them. It is important to acknowledge the social bias and discrimination she faced, but it's also impossible to ignore the fact that she created victims of her own. In the end, she may have been shaped by an unfair system, but she also chose to deceive those who trusted her.